Hey, it's a beautiful sunny summer day with puffy white clouds. Or maybe it's dark gray clouds. Maybe it's raining. Maybe it's hailing where you are. Thunder and lightning. Maybe you're being torn apart by cats. Regardless of your personal situation, thank you for listening to Mike Dell's World. And good evening, good morning, good afternoon, whatever the case may be on the recorded Mike Dell's World. But I'm trying out this new live thing. Todd gave me some time on this streaming server, and I figured I would give it a try and see how it goes. So let me know if you guys are listening, if you've found me or not. Earlier today, it seems like I've been on the microphone all day, but I was on with Adam Curry, Dave Jones, and Todd Cochran on the Podcasting 2.0 show. We're at podcastindex.org. You can find it in most of the Podcasting 2.0 apps and also over at podcastindex.org. Search for Podcasting 2.0. So, now it's officially 6 o'clock. Maybe that's what I needed to get Podverse to do its thing here. And speaking of Podverse and other apps like that, be sure to go over to newpodcastapps.com and download yourself a modern podcast app to listen to this show and other great shows that are over there. And if everything goes as planned, you should get a notification every so often that I'm going live. And some of the other podcasts that you might listen to, like Podcasting 2.0, Geek News Central, the New Media Show, I don't know, a bunch of them. There's a whole bunch that are doing this, and it's growing every day. So that's going to be great. This is just an audio stream. At some point, I may add Facebook Live or YouTube Live or something like that for the video side. But for the time being, I'll just play with this audio server thing. But the whole Podcasting 2.0 project, and I know I'm not supposed to talk about podcasting on this show all the time, but darn it, that's what I'm testing. So why not? And I know some of you guys have been with me a long time and realize that, podcasting is a big part of what I do all the time. So not that I do this show all the time, but what can I say? This live thing, it's a little different, but it's cool. And, with Podcasting 2.0, if you're set up for it, you can send Satoshis with Podverse and many other apps, Cast-O-Matic, Podfriend. I don't know. There's a whole list of them. I should go over and look. How about that? Let's see. Newpodcastapps.com. I was just there. So Podverse, Castapod, let's see, CurioCaster, Podcast Addict, Podfriend, I guess Dystopia, never really heard of that one, Podcast Guru, of course, right on Podcast Index as well, podcastindex.org. I'm looking Fountain, that's another one, Cast-O-Matic, guess that's it. Breeze is another one. Pod LP. Let's see. Audio Wave. Never heard of that one either. So there's a lot of them. Podtrix. Sphinx. Antenna Pod. Ivy.fm. Anytime Podcast Player. And not all of these have everything. Podverse is the one that I use, and that has a lot of the stuff. It has the value for value, where you can stream Satoshis or send a boostagram. And if you do send a boostagram while I'm live, or maybe in the next episode, I'll mention you. It's not too hard to get set up. Easiest way I've found so far is go over to getlb.com, and you sign up for an account over there, and you get an address. It's known as a lightning address. Don't worry about all the geekery, but it's called a lightning address. And then you can fund your wallet over there. I think the minimum's $30, but that's an awful lot of Satoshis. So you can support podcasts you love that way, and stream sats that way. And if you're a podcaster and you're using anything Blueberry, you can also link that to your Blueberry account and receive Satoshis from people. So it's a really cool way to interact with your audience and maybe earn a few pennies or dollars or lots of dollars. And, it just all depends. It's value for value thing. If you get value out of what you're listening to, you give a little value back. Time, talent, or treasure, as Adam says. But again, I was on the Podcasting 2.0 show today with Adam Curry, Dave Jones, and Todd Cochran. And we talked all about Blueberry's implementation of the Podcast 2.0 stuff, and didn't really get into the whole list, but let me bring up that list because it's pretty extensive. And what I'll do is I'll go through these and explain why you as a listener and or a podcaster might be interested in this. So bear with me here. So got to go to my documents. There and there. I know this is compelling live radio, isn't it? All right. Okay, I got to double click, and I think that's no, that's not the doc I wanted. You hate that? You open a doc and it ain't the one you wanted. I should have had this all ready to go, but I didn't. Okay, so as a podcaster or a podcast listener, there's a thing called PodPing. It runs in the background if you're hosting with Blueberry, or the show you're listening to is hosting with Blueberry, and many other apps and hosts out there. So it's not just us that are doing it. But PodPing is one of those things that it helps speed things up. A lot of people, they put out a new podcast and then they wait and they wait and they wait and they wait for Spotify or Apple or Google or a lot of these other legacy apps. I love that term, legacy apps, that don't have the PodPing functionality and feature. Takes them a really long time. With this PodPing, it should cut that time down to damn near instantly. It doesn't always work that way, but it does pretty dang good. So some of these new podcast apps, as soon as whoever publishes an episode and using PodPing or has on a service that uses PodPing, it gets the episode right away, or makes it available right away in that app. So that's kind of cool. Another tag or feature, we're not calling them tags. That's geeky. Another feature is the transcript. And Blueberry implemented the transcript. Both you can sign up for a service that will make a transcript and automatically put it into your feed. So apps that will run the transcript, you can look at it on that, and also on our Blueberry player. So if you go over to MikeDell.com and listen to this episode later, there'll be a CC button on the player, and a little drawer will pop out, and you'll see the transcript, and you'll see a little highlighter that highlights each sentence as I speak it. So that's kind of cool. And transcripts, help hearing impaired, get the gist of your podcast. The transcripts are not absolutely perfect, but they're pretty darn good. The locked tag or locked feature isn't really too much for the podcast listener, other than it prevents your show from being pulled to a different host without your permission. And that was a problem a while back when a certain podcast hosting company, people would hijack somebody's feed and put up another instance of it without their permission. And, it's just, poor planning there on their part. But funding, that's another feature that's implemented in my feed here. If you are on an app that has the funding thing, you hit the little $sign and it'll take you over to buy me a coffee, and you can buy me a coffee. So it used to say buy me a beer, but I'm laying off the beer, which I'll talk about here in a little while. Let's see, chapters. I have not implemented chapters yet, but I will eventually. But what that is you could put the art, have the art change every, when you're talking about a subject, you could have a picture up on there. Not everybody's going to sit there and look at their phone while they're, listening to a podcast, because the whole idea of listening to an audio podcast is you can do other stuff while you do it. But if you just happen to be there, if you're on CarPlay and listening to a podcast and they mention something, you can look over and see the new picture in the chapters. It also allows you to skip ahead to that section. So like today, I was listening to a particular show and they had two different guests on there, and they had the chapters set up to where I could just listen to the interview of the guest I wanted to listen to and, jump right to it. Now, for a podcaster, that's not necessarily a great thing, only because I kind of want you to listen to all of it. But if I do use chapters in the future, it'll be more for sharing pictures and things like that. That's what I'll tend to do with that one. The location tag, that just gives it a location. There are apps out there. There's maps.fm that shows the location on a map of where the podcasts are. And, say you want to learn something about Traverse City, you would go to the map in Traverse City and you'd see all the podcasts that were released in Traverse City. A lot of them will be churches, but you'll see mine there. And because I do talk about Traverse City quite a bit, and that's what it's mainly for. So if you, like, I'm going to be going to Las Vegas here in March for a conference, and we'll probably do an episode there for the other podcasts that I do. And I will likely, put that location in there that I was at, particular place in Las Vegas when this was recorded. And that may be interesting to somebody. I don't know. Kind of cool. I'll skip over these other two because they're complicated and I'll come back to them. But then there's the podcast TXT tag. And I'm going to call that a tag because that is what it's called. And basically what that's for is it'll allow us to remove the email address from an RSS feed. And those of you that are podcasters probably know that you'll get all kinds of spam email. There's people out there that'll scrape all the RSS feeds, grab all the email addresses, and then try to get you to switch to a different service or try to sell you something. It's slightly annoying. And the text tag allows you to, instead of having your email address in there to verify, you could just, hey, put this code in the text tag. And then whoever you're trying to verify with can see that you own the feed because you put that code that they told you to put in the tag. So it's, it'll help maybe cut the spam down. It's not, like I said, not super important to podcast listeners, but kind of important for podcasters. let's see, the GUID. I don't know, that's an acronym for something, but a GUID is what it's also called sometime. And we're assigning GUIDs to podcasts. And that GUID will stick with that podcast no matter where it moves around to, in theory. And it just makes it a little easier to pick up duplications and stuff, so directories can decide whether that's the same podcast or a different one by the GUID. The person tag. Okay. The credits feature is what we call it at Blueberry, but it's based on a tag in RSS, and you can give credits. So like you'll see if you're on Podcast Index and looking at my show here, you'll see that I'm credited as the producer and the host and the chief bottle washer and whatever else. And if I have a guest on here, I can credit the guest inside the episode. So, and on apps that shows, it kind of gives you credits. So it's kind of cool that way. Okay, so the two that I skipped over, the one is the live item tag. And that's also what it's called, or lit. And basically that is a little thing that pings the apps that support it. Currently, I believe it's Cast-O-Matic, Podverse, and Podcast Addict, which is a very popular Android app. And it will ping that app and say, hey, so-and-so's going live. And you can go right in your podcast app and start playing it live, which is just something that we've never had before in podcasting. A lot of times people that do live shows will, put it on social that they're going live and all that, but they won't, they have to leave the app to do that. And this allows you to listen at this point. Now there may be in the future some video component to it if the podcaster chooses to do that. But you could just listen live like I'm doing right now. I'm doing a live stream. In case you're listening to this later, it started at 6 o'clock Eastern time on Friday. And I'm going to try to do these maybe once a week or once every other week. I don't know, something like that. And so be sure to go download Podverse or Cast-O-Matic or Podcast Addict if you're on an Android, and you'll get a notification when I'm going live and you can join in. And then the last one was the value for value. The tag is called value. And basically that's where you can stream crypto, Satoshis, which is I always forget what it is. It's a very small part of Bitcoin. And don't worry, it's not a Bitcoin investment thing, and you don't need to be creeped out about crypto. It's basically a way to transfer value. You can, fund your wallet with real money, or fiat fund coupons, as Adam calls them. And then you can, later on, if your wallet gets really full, you can, convert that back to dollars or pounds or euros or whatever money you play in. And, but it's a great way to interact. You get boostograms, which are little text messages that people sort of have to pay for, but, send 1,000 sats, that might be 30 cents, 50 cents, something like that. It's not, it's not huge. Or you can get giant boosts. A few times I've gotten some boosts on another show that were significant, and always makes your day. A lot of podcasters, it's a pretty lonely business sometimes. You don't get any feedback. You've got listeners because you look at your stats, but you don't get any feedback. And I always ask for emails or hit me on social or whatever, and a very small percentage of you guys do that. Well, this seems to engage the audience a little more. I think, just a lot of the shows I listen to now that are value for value enabled, definitely, there's a lot more interaction and it gets exciting. Podcasting, I've been doing this a long time, and podcasting, when Apple got into it and put podcasts in iTunes, that sort of stopped the innovation. Podcasting, when I got into it, was new, and you had to be kind of a geek to do it, and you had to be kind of a geek to listen to them, and all that. And this feels a lot like that. I'm excited that, everything's kind of seeming new with this Podcast 2.0 initiative. Now, your old legacy apps will continue to work. And eventually some of them, and maybe hopefully all of them eventually, will adopt some of these features. They don't have to adopt all of them. You'll see over at newpodcastapps.com, you'll see that, different things are implementing different parts of the feature set that, will become more and more popular. So, it's a 3% thing right now, or 2%. I don't know. It's like somewhere around 11,000 shows right now out of the 4 million are value for value enabled. And there's, quite a bunch more that are more, that have at least one of the tags in there, one of the features. So, it's getting adoption. It's, it's a slow slog. It's just like podcasting in general. Back when I started, there might have been 100 podcasts, and pretty much everybody knew everybody and everybody listened to everybody. So it was a whole different world back there. And now it seems that it's kind of that same way. With podcasting 2.0, all the 2.0 people are listening to each other's podcasts, and it's a great way to discover things that you wouldn't normally run across. So I urge you to go over to, Podverse and download that app if you're on an Apple. Well, I guess it works on Android as well, and Linux and Mac and maybe PC. I don't know. I don't have one, but it's Podverse is one of the new modern apps. Now, is it as polished as, say, Apple Podcasts or Overcast or something like that? No, not yet. It's getting there, and they're doing a hell of a job. And the beauty of it is the app developers are involved with this project. Part of the reason is they get a little cut when you send a boost through Podverse. Podverse gets a little cut. And since, we at Blueberry, it did all this dev work to make that work, we get a little cut. And, it's all inconsequential as far as, it's not a huge amount of money unless you want to send a huge amount of money. Anything is good. And it also allows podcasters to not worry about monetizing with ads. I mean, ads are annoying sometimes. I know, I like podcasts that don't have ads. I like some podcasts that do have ads. There's, nothing inherently wrong with ads, but there's another thing to it. It's free speech. Keeping podcasting free and open, using an RSS as the standard is one of the goals of podcasting 2.0. I think it's the first goal. It's to make RSS a little more usable and a little more feature rich than it used to be. And, so, like I said, since Apple got into it in 2005, the innovation sort of stopped. There really wasn't a lot of innovation. Now, some innovations just happen because they happen. Now everybody's carrying their pocket computer around, their iPhone, their Android, their whatever else might be out there. And that's where people consume podcasts. It used to be that they'd consume it by downloading it in the middle of the night on a slow connection and then syncing it with their device, their iPod or their other MP3 player. And now it's more instant, with the phones, they're always connected and it's more instant, hence this live thing. We were never able to do live back when podcasting started. And now we are. And, I'm not huge into live, but it's cool. It's cool to play with. I had to get a drink here. I definitely been talking too much today, but that's all right. And I had a pile of voicemails I had to clear up when I got off the mic earlier, so it's been nonstop. So that's the gist of the podcasting 2.0 stuff. I won't continue to go on and on and on about it on this show. You will hear me going on and on and on about it on the Podcast 2.0 show, episode 120. Although I didn't talk nearly as much as the other guys, but it was still a really good time. And let's see what else. Oh, and Podcast Insider. We're shifting that around a little bit in format. We used to cover a lot of podcasting news, and we'll do it one more time that way. But we're going to rebrand it a little, and it'll still be every Thursday, and it'll still be Todd, me, or Mackenzie, or any combination thereof, or all three of us sometimes. But we're going to go to a single topic episode format and make it a little more evergreen so that the people can go back, years later and listen to it, and most of it may be relevant instead of, who bought who and, who's the number one podcaster on Spotify and all the other silly stories that we were covering. There's enough people covering that stuff. And so we switched it up to be a single or two topic episode, because we may have some pre-recorded segments of other people chiming in on a particular subject, and we'll probably have guests once in a while and that kind of thing. But I think it's going to make for a little more compelling show and something that'll last a little longer than just covering the news and that kind of stuff. And then we'll also be able to break in and do, Todd and we'll jump in there and do bonus episodes every now and again, to cover some subject that's a hot topic of the day or whatever. But those won't count in our normal episode schedule. And so we'll put the bonus episode to use. So anyway, enough about podcasting and all that. Well, I guess I got one more little thing about podcasting that I'll tell you about towards the end here. Let's see. I don't have any way of knowing if anybody's listening live, but I'm sure somebody might be. If you are and you're listening on a Podcast 2.0 app, shoot me a boostagram. I'll get it here. It'll make a funny noise, and I'll be able to tell that you're listening. So that's kind of cool. All right. So the next thing is I'm making a little bit of a change here, and I don't want to make a big deal out of it here, but I'm going on a extremely low carb diet. Some people call it keto. There's different levels of low carb diets. I know, boy, I really changed subjects here, didn't I? This would be a great spot for a chapter. But anyway, I was talking, I've been watching a lot of YouTubes about this thing called carnivore diet. What's her name? Michaela Peterson. Michaela Peterson. She is Jordan Peterson's daughter, and she goes one step further. She's on a very strict, what she calls a lion diet, where literally she eats beef, butter, salt, and water, and maybe not even butter. I think it's just beef, salt, and water. And she's been doing that for a couple of years now, and it's completely cured her autoimmune disease that was eating up her joints. She had a hip replacement when she was 17 years old, and she's had an ankle replaced, and she was allergic to everything, and just everything set her off. And now that she's on this diet, she's perfectly healthy, and it all works for her. And also it helped with the mental health. From what I've been reading, and like I said, I'm trying it myself, not the lion diet, but a low carb carnivore diet is what I'm calling what I'm doing. And what it's done for people is, you lose weight. And from what I've been reading, that the human body is meant to burn fat as fuel. And only since the advent of farming and agriculture have we been eating any grains or very many vegetables and fruits and whatnot. Yeah, the cavemen probably walked around and picked blueberries and whatever other kind of berries were there, and maybe ate a little bit of that for, as far as plants, but for the most part, they ate meat and drank water. And as far as I know, they were healthy. So, all the research says that that's what the human body is meant to do, is to burn fat. So eat fat and protein. It's just what we're meant to do. And my problem was, I'm a type 2 diabetic, and every time I go to the doctor, get blood work done, and he said, "Oh, your A1C is up to such and such," and I go into greater detail in another venue here, but and I'll tell you about that at the end. But it was getting pretty bad. Every time I'd go in there, he'd want to put me on another drug and another drug and another drug. And, the drug companies are getting rich, the doctor's getting rich, and I'm, fat, tired, and not doing so well. So I think I'm hoping this does what it does for, other people I've been watching on YouTube. One of the big ones is Dr. Ken Berry. He's a big proponent of the carnivore diet. And there's a whole bunch of them. You get on YouTube and you can spend hours and hours and hours. And, what it does basically is once your body gets fat adapted, they call it, you'll start burning your own fat. And, and you'll be able to use that as energy. The brain will run on glucose, sugar, and it's perfectly happy doing that for the most part. But what it really likes is ketones. And once you've exhausted all the sugar in your blood, now your body makes some glucose from other things like protein, whatever. And when you need some, it'll make it. Same thing with a lot of the vitamins and minerals that we need. You still need some minerals, hence the salt. Salt got a bad rap. Fat got a bad rap. I was watching a documentary about it, and there was this doctor, and I can't remember what his name was, that came up with the food pyramid. And, you should eat 50% carbs and 25% vegetables and fiber, and only 15% protein, and no fat or very low fat. And he was a proponent of that diet. They did a study in the state of Minnesota in mental institutions back in the day, where they could control what everybody ate. And so they had two different institutions. One was on a low-fat, high-carb diet, and the other one was on the ketogenic type diet, where they were high-fat and low-carb and low, everything else. And the study didn't come out the way they wanted it, so they never published it. It got published years later, but the doc that was pushing this low-fat diet couldn't believe the data and didn't want it out there because he was a proponent for the other thing. And, if you listen to the Diabetes Association, ADA, American Diabetes Association, if you do what they tell you, all you're going to do is make the drug companies rich and die early. So I hope I can prove this because I'm gonna try it myself. Or I'm in the process of trying it myself. I know it's a little extreme, and people are going to tell me, well, you need carbs, you need this, you need that. Well, no, you don't. And that's fine. You can have that opinion, but prove it. So I'm going to try. I'm going to see what's going on. I did get a continuous blood glucose monitor, and I got it, just before I got on this program. And it's not really a program. I don't have to pay anybody. I mean, I got to buy better cuts of beef, or beef anyway. And my blood sugars, after I ate my normal American diet, a couple of days there, and my sugar would spike at 375 is the highest I've seen, and normal is somewhere close to 100 as you can get, and that's crazy. So in fact, it was this morning I went the other way. So I had my bulletproof coffee, and that's a whole other thing. By the way, it's really good, otherwise known as butter coffee. So if you're used to having creamer in your coffee, try putting a pat of butter and a little bit of coconut oil in there, and your life will be changed. It's pretty awesome. But I did that, and then today at lunchtime I had 2 half-pound patties of beef, burger, and that's all I've eaten today. I've had water and coffee, and my blood sugar sitting right now is at 139, and I'm not hungry. That's the other thing. When you eat fat, you eat until it doesn't taste good anymore. So you're eating, fatty cuts of beef or pork or whatever. It satiates you. You're fat. The fat is what makes your brain say, okay, we're full. And, one of the other docs I watch on YouTube was saying, well, the whole idea is once you get used to this, you'll eat until it doesn't taste any good anymore. You want to be comfortably stuffed, but then that's going to last a whole lot longer than a bag of Doritos or whatever, or a big old pile of French fries, something like that. One of the other tenets of this is don't use any seed oils. Seed oils like canola oil and corn oil and all those supposedly heart-healthy oils. That was used for industrial lubrication up until somebody got the bright idea to cook with it. And I just, it's not good. It's inflammatory. That's the other thing. It's just a lot of inflaming. So, if you wake up in the morning, you're sore. I'm 57 years old. I wake up in the morning and I'm sore, from sleeping. I don't want to feel that way. I don't have to feel that way, I hope. And I'm really, wanting to get over that. And I want to get off all these stupid drugs that they've got me on for diabetes. And, I want to have energy and, sleep better. And, there's just a whole slew of things that if you're eating as Dr. Berry says, the proper human diet will get you, in that mode where, you're not dependent on all these drugs. Now, will I get completely off the diabetes drugs? I don't know. I hope so. That's the plan. But again, I don't know. I know it's improved today, not big evidence, but today it's much better than it was yesterday. As far as blood sugar levels and energy levels, and I feel pretty good. Of course, what's not, I ate a pound of burger, so I'll have another slug of something, here after I'm done recording and doing this live thing. But I really think it's worth a try. Now, I'm not going to make this podcast all about, carnivore diets and all that stuff. So to that end, yes, I started another show. This one is just me talking on the mic about my carnivore health journey. And that's what it's called. So you can find it wherever you want to find podcasts. and it's a very personal thing. I'm putting it all out there, not hiding anything. So I'll tell you how it goes, good or bad. And I'm not going to be doing a lot of them. I may be doing a lot of them. Depends. It's kind of therapy, because I want to do this show or this blog or audio blog or whatever you want to call it, so that I don't drive my friends crazy. I don't drive my coworkers crazy. I don't drive you crazy talking about it. So it's going to be pretty much restricted to that. Of course, my wife is involved. She's going to be the chief cook and bottle washer, helping me with meal prep and all that kind of stuff. But she's on board with me. She wants me to stick around for some damn reason. I don't know, but that's good. She's downstate, so I'm batching it this weekend. So that'll even be more fun, because I won't be drinking beer and won't be eating crazy, unless you think Carnivore's crazy. And you're welcome to that opinion. And please, give me your opinion. What do you think? And I'll give you my opinion and my experience at doing this. I know it's a little extreme, but if I didn't do something pretty extreme, I might get some bigger complications than I already have for being diabetic. And, I don't want to lose a foot or a toe or a leg. I don't want to go blind. I don't want to have, some of the other stuff that can happen when your sugars are continually high. And like I said, if I followed the ADA's guidelines, a few years from now, I probably wouldn't be in good shape. So got to do something. I might as well do this. So we'll see. So I think I'm going to call that one a podcast, and a good test of the live streaming, although I never saw the notification come up on Podverse like I expected. So I guess we'll have to take a look and see what happened there. But we're getting somewhere with all this technology and all that. So if you want to check out my Carnivore show, Carnivore vlog, not vlog, but audio blog, podcast, whatever, go over to MikeDell.com, and there's a tab up in the main menu there. You can see all the posts I'm doing about that and the podcast, whatever. And go over to Podverse or Fountain or Podcast Index. Go over there and use that app, just for a couple of shows, just to see how you like it. I think you'll enjoy it. And even if you're using Android Auto and CarPlay, Podverse works with that. I just put a CarPlay radio in my truck. Yeah, I always got to talk about vehicles. But I put that CarPlay radio in my truck, and it's working really good. It's wireless CarPlay, which is even cooler. I don't have to plug in. I just jump in the car, and a little bit, it's ready to go, and I can play my podcasts and use navigation and all that. I highly recommend it. I put it in my older truck because I ain't buying a new one. So there it is. Everybody have a good, until next time, I guess. You can catch me later. And again, check out my Carnivore Health Journey over at MikeDell.com in the upper menu, and on Podverse, Fountain, Podcast Index, Cast-O-Matic, all good modern podcast apps found over at newpodcastapps.com. Whew, what a plug, eh? And of course, if you want to be a podcaster, go over to blueberry.com, spelled BLUBRRY, and we'll take care of you over there and help you get started in podcasting. So everybody have a good whatever. Catch me later. Bye.